Hello friends, I'm Kayla and this is a week in the life of a purple reader. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, let me introduce you to Read Your Color, created by Stephen Reese. It's a reader assessment service where you do a survey and get assigned to one of 6 reader personalities or colors at the end. This website came onto the scene last April and they said 1 million people took the survey in the first week. And at this point, less than a year later, there's already a book coming out based on this entire thing. I of course took the quiz the second I heard about it. I was live doing reading sprints with my channel members and they told me about this survey and I had to take it. Read Your Color trend? What is that? What is that? I love it. Where do I find it? Read Your Color? 24 questions? Oh my God. A poetic memoir weaves together fragments, dreams, journal entries, old texts. Yeah, I'd probably read that. A surrealist artist discovers her paintings are portals to real worlds. Ah! Fun. A grumpy CEO starts to rethink what's important to him after he falls in love with the new VP of marketing. I'm good. A chef journeys across post-Soviet Europe searching for the recipes that defined her grandmother's lost homeland. That's so sweet. A novel told entirely through footnotes and deleted Wikipedia entries reconstructs the life of a time traveler. What is that book? Are these real books? A former Silicon Valley exec shares what broke him, what healed him, and how to live a more intentional digital life. Help. A rescue team in Antarctica picks up a distress signal from a base that officially doesn't exist and never did. Yeah. A woman uncovers a box of unsent letters and begins to rewrite the story of her childhood. Sounds a little too sentimental for me. I'm a purple reader. What does that mean? A bold, unconventional thinker who thrives on experimental storytelling and genre-defying narratives keeps going for custom. Infinite Jest. Kafka on the Shore of the Road. Okay. Oh, wait, there's more. Yeah, these are just like really popular. Oh, I was hoping that it would be like a little nicher. I loved doing the assessment. I will admit I found the recommendations at the end a little bit basic. But then I found out that it was a newsletter, a Substack, and there's a paid version of it where you get even more emails and notifications of all of these books and all of these recommendations that come in like weekly or multiple times a week. So of course I signed up for that and I've been collecting the recommendations. I haven't read anything, but I've been holding on to it. I've been screenshotting anytime something pops up that sounds interesting. And according to my purple diagnosis, I love books that stimulate the mind over the heart and have wings over roots. That's in his words. Books not bound by traditional structure. They're experimental about the journey rather than just the destination. They often have a slower pace, are less conclusive. And what really clinched it for me is his latest email that went out. One of the recommendations was actually a book already on my TBR for this month. So I was like, this is the perfect time to do it. So my TBR for the week includes Vigil by George Saunders, which is about a man being ferried into the afterlife. Audition, which is a novel about 3 giants who are trapped on a spaceship that only moves when they speak. The Wall, a near future dystopian satire about the news machine. No One Is Talking About This, a surrealist novel about online culture. Chronicles from the Land of the Happiest People on Earth, a cynical satire set in an imaginary Nigeria. And The Mezzanine, which all I know is the entire novel takes place on one escalator ride. I do also have a couple backup options in case something here is not going well and I want a DNF. I personally think that any genre can fit into any color, but Stephen does tend to recommend literary fiction kind of across the board for everybody. I saw a lot of classics, I saw a lot of historical fiction. The core desire of a purple reader is to be surprised, challenged, and disoriented. We're chasing books that other people call weird or difficult most often. I would say most people that I've seen take the survey say that they ended up with an equal result with 2 different colors or 3 different colors. I was very solidly in the purple category. This week is all about purple. I'm only gonna wear purple. I'm only gonna eat purple things and I'm gonna read my purple books. How is it that I own like no purple bookmarks? I was digging and digging for a while before I found one. And of course, it's aardvark coming through. The first 50 pages of this, yeah, definitely into. Let's read what they said. 3 giants, Alba, Stanley, and Drew, are trapped on a spaceship that only moves when they speak. If they stop, they grow. Their conversations unspool memory, power, and harm, turning the room into a stage where language itself is survival. Purple readers will love the boundary-breaking premise, the formal experimentation, and the thrill of a novel that refuses to behave. What I like about this already is what I think is commentary on the government and just how everybody is expected to behave and do what they're supposed to do, so much so that it gets ingrained into every single thing that you say and you think, and you've become like a robot essentially, which is what the powers that be want. So we follow dialogue between these three giants, and that's all the book is them talking to one another about how much they love the ship that they're on and how they were given this ship and how they have to be grateful for this ship, and that everyone who made the ship is so smart and incredible and the ship is perfect and they have no complaints, even though they keep growing and they're too big for the ship, and they got placed on the ship because they were these giants and they were sent away, but they appreciate the ship and they know that they're idiots and whatever they think and feel is not correct, and they have to respect the safe place that they were given by the people who made it, and everything is perfect and everything is fine. There was this line where they were talking about their lives before, and they said we would all sing and we would all band together and everything was so much fun, and now they're more isolated and now they're growing and now they're apart from one another, and their connection and their singing and their love used to be what moved the ship. Audition is the name of the spacecraft. I'm definitely hooked, having a great time. And because being a purple reader specifically talked about the form of the book, I'm trying to think of like what other books. Well, it's hard because I want to say every book that I loved maybe because I'm a purple reader, but I don't know how to associate it properly. Like, is House of Leaves a purple reader book? I feel like because of the form and the experimental style, like this is the quintessential purple reader book. And I also saw this thing where he talked about there's two different wings or like offshoots. There's the architect and the alchemist of purple readers. The architects are more about form. They fall in love with the structure, the way people fall in love with the plot. And then the alchemists are idea people. Give them a cleanly told novel with a mind-bending premise, consciousness uploads, time-traveling historians, sentient ecosystems, and they're gone for the weekend. So I guess this kind of encompasses both. So a lot of the weirder stuff that I like, I guess, could just be purple inherently. Like We Ride Upon Sticks is a weird premise. These girls get magic, but not every magical witch book would be for purple readers. But this is especially for a purple reader, I feel, because it's told as a collective we. Like the entire book is first person plural, and so this feels like a purple reader thing to me. But I'm wondering if maybe the Pallbearers Club is also, because other people call this unsatisfying and like nothing happens, but because of the form of it, I was obsessed with it, where a man is writing a novel and his best friend is annotating the entire thing as we're reading it. Then I'm thinking about things like Death in Her Hands, which is a book about nothing, and people always talk about how annoying it is being in this woman's head when like there's no plot. Is that a purple reader thing? Because that is weird to me that nothing happens, but is that weird enough to be a purple reader thing? And then there's books like Security, which is told via the footage from security cameras, and it's told in like a split style. I was obsessed with the writing of this, not even so much the plot. So maybe I love this as a purple architect, but I love Glory as a purple alchemist, because this isn't written particularly strangely. However, all of the people are represented by animals, and we read it as if they're animals. But I guess it is written kind of weirdly too. Like when you have pages that look entirely like this feels purple to me, but I don't know for sure. One word to help describe what each reader is looking for: red readers want to be mind blown. Me too. Yellow readers want to be attached. That's not me. Green readers want to be interested. Sure. Purple readers are looking for something that's different. Blue readers are looking for something that provokes them, something that makes them think deeper about love, life, faith, meaning. Yeah, orange readers want to feel lost. They want to disappear into another world so completely the reality fades away. And the colors are not boxes, they're lenses. It divides you up to help you look into more of what you want and what you like and why you like it, and try to connect the dots. Okay, I'm gonna grab the audiobook of this because I need to head into the city to get groceries and to do some other things. And I feel like this could be a good audiobook to listen to. And I have to go to Booster Juice because, speaking of only consuming purple things, you know what's purple? Booster Juice. And you know who got the name of the day to get a free Booster Juice today? Me! February 9th, immediately following the day that I posted this vlog where I talked about how I wanted to be the name of the day. And I checked in 3 different times over the weekend that I was vlogging if I was the name of the day, and I never was. And then suddenly I wake up and I'm in the name of the day. In fact, my husband was leaving for work. I remember him turning the lights on. I pulled the blanket over my head, and then like I fell back asleep, and 10 minutes later he came back in, he lifted the blanket over my face, came so close to me, was like, "You're the name of the day." He was so excited for me. And I'm so excited for me because I get to go get a free Booster Juice. My dreams have all come true. Okay, I ended up getting the acai bowl instead of a smoothie because I haven't had lunch yet, and it looks good. And They've like rebranded their acai bowls. I had one a year ago and it was disgusting. It was like brown and the bananas were frozen, but the new ones, I feel like maybe I've had it once before. You probably know better than I do. But I just saved like 14 bucks and I got the baby a smoothie, so I gotta go pick him up from school. But I need to update you about Audition first. I finished it and I have thoughts. They're not the best because the first half of the book was very much for me, and then it turned into a really traditional storytelling style and answered all of the questions I didn't want answered, and was just such an unexpected part of it. Like as soon as it switched from one narration style to the other, I was also suddenly reading about sexual assault and like all of these things that were kind of a lot. Of course, there's someone parked directly beside me now and my battery's about to die, but here, we'll take a bite and then I'll go home and I'll talk to you. That is delicious, and more delicious because it was free. I was pondering my rating on the drive home, and I think I'm just gonna land at like a 3.5. I think it's a 3.5. I loved the first half of this. Like the audiobook was strange. It was like the voices were layered on top of each other. Also, Spotify literally today came out with this new thing. If you're someone like me who reads physically and then wants to listen to the audiobook and reads physically and then go back to the audiobook, and that's how you use your Spotify hours, because I'm never listening to a full book. Like I'm testing out a whole bunch of audiobooks or I'm going back and forth. They started this thing called Page Match where you can take a picture of where you're at in the book and it'll sync the audiobook to where you're at, so you don't have to struggle to find the right chapter and stuff, especially in books that don't have chapters listed. It's kind of life-changing, and it could not have come at a better time. This, I thought by the end I would be pondering like the plot and what the book is actually doing, because a lot of weird books, they're written strangely and you're left wondering like what actually just even happened. But that was pretty clear. What was happening in here was quite clear, and I didn't think that that's where we were going because the first half was definitively strange. What this book is really honed in on is the justice system, is the prison industrial complex, but I think more so it's even talking about how capitalism has created a prison of its own. Also, this book has different sexual exploits in it, and what I think it's using that for is to show that sex can be used for both harm and liberation. It's definitely too short of a book for the characters to go on this great mental transformation and really understand that the place they've been put in society and been told that they don't know anything and are too stupid to understand anything isn't reality, or isn't the life that they would have had without interference. So they are left in the dark a lot about what's happening, and ergo we are as well. And I think that that's not going to work for every reader. I don't know, it's like the plot's not ambiguous, but I suppose we still don't get every single answer because we can't physically when we're following the people we're following. I just expected it to be more open-ended and more ambiguous and more strange. But I still think this is a really cool book, and it's got a low average rating, which not too low, but I often find that some of my favorite books have a really low average rating. I think this is easier to recommend than I assumed it would be. And that's my thoughts on book number 1. Another day, another purple outfit. Today, the book on the docket is No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood. This has quite a few more readers than I think anything else that I have on my TBR for this video. It has not a super low average rating, but lower than, I don't know, a lot of books you might expect to be recommended, and is what you expect when you're recommended quote unquote weird books. Though this has won some book prizes, so that's cool. As far as a day in the life, it's the end of my work day. It's like 4 o'clock, and I had time to read just under 100 pages today. I was filming my Wednesday video. If you watched it, I'm sure it was so long, and I didn't expect it to be that long, but just know I was filming for 4 hours somehow. I now have 4 hours of footage to edit before tomorrow. And I was putting together book club stuff, and I was organizing things and texting my husband and my child at the same time because everybody needs me. The first half of this, I appreciate the intent of it. Oh, I'm trying so hard not to be a hater. I just don't care. I just don't care about this book. It's, how would I describe it? It's written in little vignettes, little what could be tweets, and that is appropriate for the style of book because it is talking about the internet. It's basically using a portal to talk about the internet, and how our main character is going into the portal where she's just constantly surrounded by a chorus of voices who are talking about the world. And I appreciate the concept of this in the same way that I would if it was nonfiction, where I would look at it and go, okay, like sure, the author wants to talk to us about how the internet is not good for our minds, but like, don't we all know that by now? And it just feels like such an obvious message for the book to have. That's like, the internet is where we go to escape, but we can't escape because everybody's voices are there and we never should hear from this many people, but isn't it such a great thing that we get to witness everybody's experiences? Real life is so hard, and isn't it so nice that in a place that we feel so lonely, we can go to this other place and feel connected? So like, an example is she was scrolling, which is existing in her portal, and she saw somebody talking about a Tupperware container they had that was stained orange with spaghetti. And she was like, oh my God, what a relatable experience. We all know about that Tupperware stained with orange, and I never would have known that anyone else ever had this thought unless I had the internet. And like, oh my God, we're all so connected. We all have the same life experiences, and isn't humanity beautiful? But isn't humanity so stupid that we need the internet to connect with everybody now? I would never pick up a nonfiction book like that because I don't need my own thoughts fed back at me. And I think the person who's reading this or is reading a social media book about the harm of social media is the type of person who already feels that way. And it exists like an echo chamber where your own thoughts are just being spouted back at you. But like, that's kind of the whole thing, is that's what the internet is, and that's what the internet culture is. So anyway, I went on Goodreads and I checked to see what everyone else thought about this book to see if it would be worth it for me to DNF. And what's so interesting is the only people that I've seen, I went through really quickly, but the people that I saw who hated it were talking about how they just didn't get it. And then the people who were disrecommending it were like, you're not gonna get this if you don't get internet culture. If you're not chronically online, like this isn't the book for you. And I get it. I get it too much, and I couldn't find anybody who disliked it for the same reason I'm disliking it, so I don't know. And then I saw a bunch of people say that halfway through, which is interesting, just like the last book that I read, it takes a turn. Everyone's talking about how it feels like two different stories in one. So I'm kind of looking forward to that, because right now this feels like, I don't know, a high 2, or it could be a 3. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but maybe the second half could turn it around. There were 2 things that I tabbed. Let me see what they were. Oh, the words Merry Christmas were now hurled like a challenge. They no longer meant newborn kings or the dangling silver notes of a sleigh ride or high childish hopes for snow. They meant, do you accept Herr Santa as the all-powerful leader of the new white ethno-state? And that's it. That's like one of her many thoughts that reads like a tweet and is kind of an exacerbated version of the world we live in. So I like satirical books, I like surrealist books, and this does feel like that. It feels like our reality, but slightly exaggerated. Like how there was a time that nobody could say Merry Christmas anymore. It wasn't PC. Everyone started saying Happy Holidays, but now Merry Christmas is back. But so much so that in this reality, saying Merry Christmas is like stating something really strong. I just thought that was a good example of how the book is written. And then the other one that I tabbed is about distraction, because I think this is something we're all aware of, but I like how concisely it was explained here or talked about. Had they made us weak with intermittent fasting? Had they wasted our evenings with the detective show that no one could understand? Had they done this to make American novels bad for a time? Were they distracting our anarchists with polyamory and meal replacement drinks so nothing could get done? Had they bloated us with homebrew? Had they made Christianity viable again? Had they brought back snap crotch bodysuits? She's saying a lot without saying the specific words. We are being distracted. We should be fighting against the powers that be, but we are intentionally distracted by capitalism. Don't you want to buy this? Don't you want to do this? Here's 10 other things to be angry about, so you're not angry about the reason that you're in this bad place to begin with. I think a lot of people would dislike how this is written, and I love how this is written. I love just the little moments, the little tweet-like things. I just don't think it's particularly interesting. I'm not laughing out loud the way I think other people might. I'm not making all these realizations that the author might want me to. Okay, the second half did change in plot. not in writing, not in tone, not in intent, but it got to be about a specific event. And it got to be very much about pregnancy, motherhood, fertility, babies. And if you know me, that's not something that I love to read a lot of the time. But at least it didn't completely change in style. Like I liked the writing the entire time. I understand why it was written this way. I respect it. I'm gonna stick with my 2.75. Definitely things that we need to be talking about. And we need to be talking about reproductive rights, especially keeping our autonomy. And this book covered a lot of things in such a few amount of pages. So that is a feat. Do I understand why it's recommended for a purple reader? Absolutely. And I'm really hoping to stop being a hater expeditiously, and that my next read will be a fantastic one. That purple touch, everyone who sees you falls in love. Day 3 of being the purpliest reader. I brushed my teeth with my purple toothpaste, and I put my makeup on with my purple beauty blender. I ate my yogurt with blackberries and blueberries, which look kind of purple. I took my purple vitamins. I planned out my day in my purple planner, and I planned some videos with my purple notebook. I swapped my phone case to be purple, and I'm not wearing the purpliest shirt, but it's in the family, and later I'm gonna use only purple in my coloring book. And I have my advent calendar that I never finished opening, and I feel like if there is a purple bath bomb in here, then I'll even take a purple bath. Let's look in the purple one, because I feel like there could be a purple bath bomb. There is hand cream though. Oh, I don't like that. The hunt for a purple bath bomb continues. This one is the moon. Last chance. Purple! In number 11, we got a cloud. Beautiful. You're invited to my bath. And today we're reading Vigil. This has a man who is a bad person. He works in the oil industry. He died and he needs to be ferried into the afterlife. But we're mostly following, it seems like in the very first chunk that I read, the woman, her name's Jill, who is responsible for taking him from there to the afterlife. And he is not interested. And normally she's there to comfort people, to help people. Everyone welcomes her. And she just has this very beautiful aura about her. The audiobook, it's Judy Greer narrating. She just gives all the right vibes. And when she's going to meet him, she sees all of this wonderful stuff happening around, and she wants to be a part of this family and this. And she obviously really misses her partner and the life she used to have. And I wonder if how she got this job, if we're going to know anything about that, if everybody who dies is then responsible for taking someone else, or if she's been tasked with this because she I don't know, deserves to have some time back because she just appreciates life so much. The descriptions of things like seasons have been really beautiful. The seasons had passed in a predictable way. The oppressive, close, damp heat at the end of August made a girl feel like summer was shutting down, as if August were a dear friend who just learned he was to be sent away and was pleading with you not to forget the beautiful times you'd spent together during those first precious weeks of him. And then came fall's gradual browning / oranging, and oh, the smell of the covers of one's new notebooks, plus the good old "am I back to learning again among my summer changed friends" feeling. And maybe, let's say, as you walked to school, a drenching autumn rain converted the leaves under boot into a paint exuding mush that stained the sidewalk purplish, which she had to admit she just loved that. Especially if, for example, in a window of an old Murphy house on that dull, dark, rainy morning, a single candle burned, which would be spooky, but in a good way. She's going through all of the parts of the year and everything that she loves and everything that she misses and the things that she gets. Where is she when she's not taking people into the afterlife? Or is that all that she's doing? I don't know, but I'm so sucked into her narrative that I don't want to hear about him. She met him briefly and he's not interested, but recognizes who she is and what she's there to do. And she's waiting for him to have some regrets and some thoughts about the life that he's led because she knows it's not positive. So it feels kind of like a Scrooge situation. And I just love the writing so much that I'm very into reading this today. I'm excited that I'm reading it. I have to head out to take Liam to a doctor's appointment where we get to see the results of some procedures he just had. And I hope that that turns out the way that we want. But I'm gonna take this with me in case I have a chance to pick it up. But I really am liking the audiobook. And there's sound effects, crickets, and children laughing in the background. And her voice layers over the male narrator's voice when she's learning about his life. So I think a tandem read I will continue. Okay, I'm giving that 5 stars. Oh my God, I loved it. I loved every bit of this book. And here's the thing, I thought everybody else would too, but no, this one is getting so many negative reviews. And the wording that everyone's using to describe it is a lot of the words that show up in like reviews for my favorite books. Apparently this premise, which I guess I didn't know the premise of Lincoln in the Bardo, but this is the same premise as Lincoln in the Bardo, as far as covering that liminal space between life and death. But because that one's longer and we get to cover a lot of different things, people just think that that one is so much better developed. And this is just some random like extra piece of that puzzle that doesn't have as much time and care taken to explore all of the themes and everything. I have Lincoln in the Bardo on my TBR, but I didn't even know that's what the plot was. And now I'm even more interested in reading it, but knowing that, it feels kind of like, do you ever listen to an artist like after they've had a lot of commercial success and then they come out with like a mixtape or something that feels more of an independent, like self-published kind of thing that isn't really in alignment with what they've done before and it just feels like a passion project? That's how this kind of feels to me, because it's short, but it's taking a similar idea he's already done. It's almost like he felt like I'm not done with this concept, but I don't want to make sequels. I don't want to make the same thing again, but I'm not done. Like I want to just write this little novella, like almost a little fan fiction of something else in this universe I've created could be going on. And based on what people are saying about it, it seems like people are not enjoying the message of this one, aren't appreciating what they are assuming is what George Saunders has to say regarding, I guess, the inevitability of badness in the world. We have this character who really has no remorse, and because the type of Christmas Carol story that this is, I think one might expect it to go down a certain path and say certain things, but it doesn't. And I think you could leave it feeling worse about the world than when you started it. And for me, I've said time and time again, and I feel like I'll say even more knowing that I'm a purple reader, is I don't care about how a book makes me feel. I want a book to make me think for sure, but the takeaway doesn't matter. It's like I always say when I'm reading a romance book, I don't actually care if they're together in the end or if I think they're gonna break up after the book ends. Like that's not something that I care about. And I don't care about when they're professing their love for each other. Like I just want to have fun. I just want to have a good time. And this was a good time, even though there was barely any plot. It was just constant monologues. And I loved the audiobook. I don't think everybody will. And I don't even love an overly produced audiobook all of the time. But the way that the characters' voices were layered and there was just this repetitive nature that I always talk about that I love in books. This is objectively underdeveloped. It definitely feels in alignment with the other things that I'm reading and just these short conceptual books that don't really have the plot beats that you might expect or you've come to expect with traditionally published literature. Even though we had different narrators, sometimes it was hard to tell who was even speaking because we'd be hearing from Jill, but then she would be experiencing someone else's story and like feeding it to us through her voice. And the story started to come out of her, and that happens like within the book, but also the audiobook. So if the reading is a little bit confusing, I don't think the audiobook necessarily clears that up all of the time. I loved learning more about Jill. I loved her backstory. I loved the observations she was making about how to interact with these people differently and the type of impact that she wants to have. I already had this on my radar because I had a feeling I would love it. I love that it got suggested in this way. I'm so glad I got to include it. And this is my first 5-star read of February. So I'm very happy that it happened. I wish maybe I should just stop the video now because I'm gonna live on this high. But it's a week in the life, and the week is continuing. I'll see you on Thursday. And I'm sipping purple rain. Guess what? I found another purple bookmark. Check it out. And I got this book from the library, so my library card bookmark works perfectly. The wall. Okay, here's what Stephen said. If you love fiction that feels like it's winking at reality while bending form and tone, this is your purple double feature. So this was recommended alongside something called Scoop. And maybe I should have picked that one because it says it's absurdity, mix-ups, and knives out commentary on the news machine. Wait, isn't commentary on the news machine? Oh my God, I introed this video wrong. I was reading the description of Scoop. This one says it's a near future dystopia that takes a satirical edge and applies it to borders, climate, and fear. If you love fiction that feels like it's winking at reality. So I guess that's describing both of these because this was like an alive and dead combo recommendation for each color. Winking at reality exists in both of them, probably. But when I hear winking at reality, it sounds fun. And what I will say about all of these recommendations, and it can be expected because I feel as though it is geared towards like a literature bro, a demographic that I do not belong to. And because of that audience, none of these books are fun. And maybe I've picked the wrong ones, but when I hear winking at reality, like I think that sounds a little fun. Even though I've had a 5-star, that one wasn't fun. They're all very intense. They all take on a lot of societal stuff. They all want to talk about something important. And sometimes I just want to have a silly, goofy time, but that's not Stephen Reese's problem. Don't you think though that there's kind of an opportunity here to turn this whole read your color thing into something bigger and like having guest authors or having a whole website, like a blog where other people are posting their recommendations, like people who you're vetting, who, hi Stephen, I'm talking directly to you, who like you think understand the whole program but can recommend things in different arenas, because then you're going to hit a whole bunch of other demographics you might not have ever thought to. I haven't updated you on the wall even though I'm only 80 pages from the end because I just keep thinking about DNFing it. But the final third of this book, part 3, takes place somewhere different and it brought me back. So I am persevering, though I think this is going to be a 3-star from the end. I'm just so curious if there is going to be something a little weirder that's going on here. We're going to get some answers. I don't think we are, but I am committed. This is another one of those books that reviewers call underdeveloped. The book is not giving us a unique world, a unique set of circumstances. It's using our world to inform something that could be happening in a nation. Basically, this country is being threatened. People are trying to infiltrate. What they're actually trying to accomplish by coming into the country, maybe we don't fully know. We probably will never know. But what we do know is there's like 10,000 people at any given moment who are working on this wall. And it starts out meeting this guy, Kavanaugh, and we're through his eyes and he is getting introduced to the wall, working on the wall, what that looks like. And it's just him patrolling for 12 hours a day. And he talks about the logistics of that. 12 hours of work, 12 hours of sleep, but then, or rest, and then 6 hours of that is training. They're protecting themselves and their community from the outside world, but really the entire community is just the wall workers. Like that's everybody's sole purpose, unless you are a breeder, in which case that's the only way that you can get out of wall work is by creating offspring. And nobody wants to create offspring because we're existing in a world, a wink to reality, where the world feels overpopulated and we don't even care for the people that we do have. So why would we bring more people into it? People don't want to breed because the world is such a horrible place. So as an incentive to get people to leave the wall, if you reproduce, you can leave. You breed to leave the wall. Some people say that this isn't fair to the children who are born into a world where they have to do time on the wall in their turn. Maybe they won't though. Maybe all the others have died off by then and we won't need the wall. Who knows? And besides, the children can always breed in their turn and get off the wall that way, prolonging the life of our species too as a side effect. Breed to leave, that's the slogan. It's a little simplistic, but I think that's the goal. And I think what's fun is going into these books kind of knowing that they're going to be aimless, and we're not going to get very much clarity on how they even got to this place. We just know where they're at, what they have to do. If you're bad at your job, you get sent out to sea. If anyone infiltrates the country, however many people got in, they send that many of the workers out to sea. Why do we need this many people patrolling? What was the change that got them here? Why do they have absolutely no way of like doing anything in the country? Like how have they not, like what's actually stopping them from rebuilding? That's the question. It's, I'm sure, not going to get answered. Instead of that, we get information on the security, just like lengthy descriptions of war-like scenarios as they're practicing protection, as they're having to do real protection. He and everyone else has feelings about this. There's a lot of guilt, generational guilt. The olds feel like they irretrievably fucked up the world, then allowed us to be born into it. You know what? It's true. That's exactly what they did. They know it. We know it. Everybody knows it. To make things worse, the olds didn't have to do time on the wall because there was no wall, because there had been no change, so the wall wasn't needed. This means that the single most important and formative experience in the lives of my generation, the big thing we all have in common, is something about which they have exactly no clue. The life advice, the knowing better, the back in our day wisdom, which according to books and films was a big part of the whole deal between parents and children, just doesn't work. Want to put me straight about what I'm doing wrong in my life, Granddad? No thanks. Why don't you travel back in time and unfuck up the world and then travel back here and maybe we can talk. Oh, and a quick update on sweet baby Liam. We got the results from his test, which shows, I don't know, you probably haven't followed the entire journey, or I've talked about it in so many different places that it's hard to keep up, but he has a lung condition, and his treatment that we just did, and then we did the test to see how, if it did anything, his lung health, or not necessarily capacity, it's more about how much the speed at which he can breathe in and out, improved 11% via the treatment. So that's pretty incredible, which means we're going to do another round, probably another round, and this is going to be his life for a while. The fact that we saw any results at all is his doctor is very, very pleased. I don't think if you asked Liam, he would say he notices much of a difference, but hopefully we will continue to see progress. And my final rating for this is going to be a 3. It didn't do anything in the end that I disliked, but it didn't do anything really that changed the rating that I was already going to give it. And in a world of literature where there's so many dystopian books coming out, I just don't think this has anything to say that's that interesting. I wouldn't go out of my way to personally be recommending this one. Like the color purple macaroni and cheese. Good morning and happy Friday. The mezzanine takes place on one escalator ride, and I just read the first 2 chapters, and he's not even on the escalator yet, but he's been approaching the escalator for 2 chapters. Oh, I found a purple lip stain. It's not a stain, is it? Oh God. Matte ink. It's ink. See if we can get this off later. The first chapter was him talking about how he just got himself milk and whether or not you should drink milk with a straw and whether he wanted a straw. And when the person asked if he wanted a bag, the decision that he made if he wanted to put his milk in a bag or not. In the second chapter, right before he gets on the escalator, he realizes his shoe is untied. And the description of how the shoe became untied and how his foot and his sock wanted to break free out of the shoe and be their own entity. That was like a whole paragraph. And the footnotes, you guys, are longer than the actual story. This is the story. This is the story. This and this are footnotes. In 1970, they switched from paper straws to plastic straws, but the straws are now lighter than the actual drink itself, so it floats on top, and when you try to put it in the can, it just pops right back out, and how frustrating is that? Suddenly, the paper goods distributor was offering the small restaurants floating plastic straws and only floating plastic straws, and was saying that this was the way all the big chains were going, and the smaller sub shops did no independent testing using cans of soda instead of cups with cross-slit slosh caps. In this way, the quality of life through nobody's fault went down 1/8 of a notch. Until just last year, I think, when one day I noticed that a plastic straw made of some subtler polymer with a colorful stripe in it stood anchored to the bottom of my can. He's talking about going to 7-Eleven and buying dirty magazines. He's talking about the risks to the soles of your shoes when walking on an imperfectly swept floor. And here I'm about to get the history of Scotch tape. What a great day. What a time to be alive. I cannot oversell how this is so for me. This is the most boring book I've read this entire year. And it's my favorite book I've read this entire year. I can't talk about it with you looking like this. This is not coming off with water. I need soap. This soap's gonna dry out my lips. Much like, but unlike the last book that I was talking about that is taking our real world but exaggerating it, this feels the same. Just the way he's talking about everything, just every mundane experience he's talking about is as if it's the most interesting thing or the most exciting thing ever. This man is just so fascinated by the world around him. Like all of these technological advancements, as simple as they may be, like changing from paper to plastic straws, like how pages have become perforated. It's him pondering every single element of his life in his mundane job. I'm talking about a lot of relatable life experiences, like simple things. For example, when you don't realize you're at the top of a staircase and you go to take one more step and then you slam your foot down because you thought there was another step there. Or when you go to use a stapler and the stapler betrays you, like that's how he writes it, because there was no staples left, and how could you have known because it was encased in this little box. And it's all kind of connected because he's talking about the things that have advanced and changed and why shoes have a certain texture on the bottom and how in the past they probably didn't have this texture, and somebody had to think about that. Somebody had to plan that shoe and product design that. When he goes to the store, you can get a bag that's see-through or a bag that's not, and like which is the right one for the right occasion, which one was invented first. Did people want to hide their purchases first, or did people want to show the world what they had? He's finding almost the joy in everything, the wonder of everything. He's just so interested in every little thing. Like the moment in life when he realized that other people were brushing their tongues and not just their teeth. When people were saying, oh, I'm brushing my teeth, they meant their whole mouth, and he didn't realize that. And like, oh my God, the day he realized he could brush the roof of his mouth, everything changed for him. He's talking about how to be the most efficient with things, how the best way to stuff your pillowcase is to hold it under your chin. And the day he stopped trying to stuff it into every corner, like what a revelation that was for him. He's talking about one thing and it leads into another and it leads into another. And the whole beginning where it talks about milk, like we kind of at the same time are going through time as he's traveling up the escalator, but we're going back in time in the same breath, because why did he need the milk to begin with? We're gonna find out what he was eating that required milk. And I think even the food choices are here for a reason. And there's just so much that you could think about once the book is done. And what really is the point of this entire thing? There's things he knows, but there's also things that he wonders. Like when he wears skates, ice skates, and they wear down, how many hours does it take before it wears down? Like, could you do a mathematical equation? If the ice is colder, does that make them wear down quicker or slower? Depending on the angle, like, can he change how fast it wears down? Same thing with a record player and the grooves. The grooves, oh my God, that's similar to the grooves at the bottom of your shoe. Like, let's all connect these things. And it's not like the book wants us to think that he's thinking all of these thoughts on this 30-second escalator ride. It's more that every chapter he's going through something that he did in his day and what he was thinking about in the moment, or like what it's making him think about now. This is overthinking's final boss. He even starts thinking about thinking, like how many times he thinks about a certain thing in his life, but like what really makes a thought? How long do you have to think about something to make it an actual thought? Of course, he ends up talking about the escalator itself, how it functions, how it was invented, the building itself, like how everything is just a marvel around him. I loved this. I loved everything about this. Thank you so much, Stephen Rees, for giving me one of my favorite books of the year. It's a little while later, and I'm DNFing my first book of the video, and I really don't want to do it. I really don't want to do it. First of all, it matches my sweater. Second of all, I had the most beautiful title screen planned where the song was going to be purple, about the Purple People Eater song, because I feel like there's something about this cover that exudes those vibes. Also, this is the only purple spine that I had in my thumbnail, and I was really excited to talk about this. I should have heeded his advice that said, it's a wild ride that should not be undertaken lightly. I believe I was undertaking this a little bit lightly. I cannot read this. This is so ambitious of a book, not in plot. Perhaps if it was in plot, I could push my way through it, but it's just in the writing. This is kind of unreadable. Like, oh my God, I'm so in my purple mind. I almost just filmed a stranger. There's somebody right in front of me who is wearing a purple hoodie and a purple toque. And I also have my purple toque, but now the truck's gone so I can film where I'm parked and you can see the sign, my purple beacon booster juice. I'm here for a reason and I will tell you about that in a second. But I made it halfway through chapter 5, I think it was. Yeah. So 76 pages in, and I genuinely have no idea what's going on. In an imaginary Nigeria, a cunning entrepreneur is selling body parts stolen from Dr. Menka's hospital for use in ritualistic practices. Okay, that makes sense. The word usage and the grammar usage is just, it's so difficult to decipher what this book is saying. I was gonna read you a passage. I don't know if I wanna read you a passage because then maybe it'll just make me sound stupid that I can't comprehend what this book is even talking about. All I know is, unfortunately, I am not willing to push through this book right now. It's taking every single one of my brain cells. I thought, let me check out the audiobook. Perhaps like that'll help me along, but would it, or would I just kind of zone out while the story's being told to me? Also, the audiobook is 20 hours. Today's brain cannot do this. I cannot take this on. It's clear to me why this has a low average rating, but there are people who I'm sure get it and love it, and I wish I was that. I wish I could have this in my back pocket as a recommendation, as a reference point. I often really jive with Nigerian authors. This one's just really a bummer. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go on a color walk. Normally I would go in like a neighborhood in the warmer months, and basically it's when you have no plans of where you're gonna go and what you're gonna do, and you just pick a color, and every time you spot that color, whether it's like in a flower garden or someone's house or something on the ground, and then it guides you left or right at every turn and you just meander. I'm gonna do this in the middle of the city instead because it's winter. It's like 0 degrees today and everything's dead. and I don't think a neighborhood is the right plan. And so I'm gonna start at Booster Juice because I'm gonna make my way back here eventually because this is where I'm parked and I can get my acai bowl when I'm done. And I'm just gonna wander around because I haven't gone on my daily walk yet. And what I'm gonna do on this walk is I'm going to listen to the beginning of a couple of different books. I told you I had some plans in my back pocket of books to pull out if things weren't going well, and we're there. So I have a couple audiobooks I'm gonna try out. I'm gonna make a decision. I'm not gonna stop my walk. I'm not gonna come back until I have selected a book and something has piqued my interest. I need something plot focused. I definitely need something that grabs my attention right away. The core desire of each color are suggested here. Yellows want connection, red craves intensity, orange readers want wonder, green is looking for clarity, blue wants meaning, purple desires surprise. I want a book that surprises me, and I also want to be surprised by my walk and where I end up going. I also think walking around downtown is a good plan because if I get too cold, I can just pop into a little shop. So let's see where I go and what I end up reading. I'm gonna start this way because there's a dental place that's also purple for some reason. Lookout for a purple vehicle. I feel like that's kind of hard to find. There's pink. Someone just left their red velvet ice cream. I found another store with a purple logo. Is this a bookstore? I swear I've never heard of this in my life. I've never been here. Tea house and spiritual bookstore. There's our purple flower. But now I'm on this road. I listened to the first chapter of The Scoop. I felt like that was the right decision because it was one that was an option that I thought I was picking, and it wasn't fun or interesting at the beginning, so that's not the pick. Okay, I wasn't able to film a random stranger, but this lady just ran towards me wearing purple, and she's taking me back this direction to a Mexican cantina. I promise I did not plan this. I ended up at the library and I just finished the next chapter of the next book. This is kind of my Hail Mary, what we can know. I thought it'd be great. I just wasn't driving with the writing style right away, so maybe we'll see what the library has. This one has purple on it. That happened so much quicker than I could have expected. It's definitely plot focused. Like right off the bat, we get a dynamic between these two women. Cape Fever by Nadia Davids. I might like because purple readers love fiction that plays with form and genre while saying something sharp about power, class, race, and history. This one blends gothic tropes with folktale texture and post-colonial critique. Short, strange, and stylistically interesting. I, in the first chapter, didn't witness anything that was strange nor stylistically interesting. It just feels the most traditionally narrative style that I've read for this video. And something that I really like about all these recommendations is we're hitting so many different countries and continents. This one, since I DNF'd a Nigeria setting, I felt like South Africa would be a good place for us to go. It's set in the 1920s and we have a main character, Soraya. She is the personal maid to the eccentric Mrs. Hatting, who clearly thinks that she is more, I don't know, like forward thinking than she actually is. She has hired this woman, but is frequently talking down to her, is assuming she doesn't know how to do anything, definitely judges her based on appearance and religion, and she's just the wealthier woman who sees having employees or servants under her as her right, and like she's helping these people and she's giving them knowledge and assistance. And it says our main character has a fiance, and the older woman is going to start writing letters on Soraya's behalf because she can't write and read, but I think she actually can. I think the first person narrative is definitely grabbing my attention too, so this feels like the right pick today. And I got my little bowl. You're welcome for not eating it before chatting with you, because I learned after the last one I had, oh my god, my teeth were full of acai or blueberry or whatever's happening in here. But I'll see you when I get home with an update. Sorry I didn't update you at any point while I was reading this other than the first chapter. first impression. I just didn't know what to really say about it. Also, the house was just really busy tonight, and don't mind my hair. I'm letting it air dry, which seems like a bad decision. Also, I guess this is so short. There wasn't time to update you. I feel like, as far as a rating, I'm gonna give this a 3.75. It's funny because one of the posts from Read Your Color that I'm going to talk to you about tomorrow specifically speaks to chasing books you've never heard of before, or like things you've never seen done before, and how that can be a detriment to purple readers. And so I fear I'm going to come across that way. This just didn't really do anything inventive, but what it did do for me is it was almost like a reprieve. Even though I've loved multiple books this week, there was always something strange, like something to navigate that was kind of hard to read, and this was a very easy, simple, traditional book. Not technically traditional because it does have a little bit of the ghosty vibes, but there's also this thing that I've seen Stephen talk about in a couple different posts about not being boxed in by your color, and if you find yourself only reading one thing, to try to go to one of the adjacent colors. That's why it helps knowing like what's the heart versus the head and the whatever versus the whatever, because it can help you realize what side or quadrant you're in. And so who I would recommend this most to is whoever is on the side of purple, red, and blue, probably. Or no, I think it's orange and blue. If you are stuck in those colors and you want to get a little bit weird, this would be a great place to go. If you're already a speculative reader, this isn't gonna do anything to impress or surprise, rather. It reads a lot like a historical thriller and goes down every avenue I pretty much expected it to, and I liked that. Like a 3.75 is a good rating. Plot is essentially Samaya doing what she's told and being underappreciated, underpaid, and over time more and more manipulated and taken advantage of and isolated from her community. But with a lack of other options, she remains. Mrs. Hadding always has something to distract her and to distract herself. She has her dinner parties, or she has her son coming to visit. There's always something coming up. And they begin to think that like the other is all that each of them have. Obviously manipulation from the older woman's behalf, but even she gets into this kind of toxic relationship with this young girl because a lot of her relationships are really surface level. That's what we see from the outside, and I think she uses her privilege to manipulate Samaya. Sometimes I feel like she's fully aware of it, and sometimes just by her nature. I think this is like a pretty solid one that most people would like. I can't see many people picking this up and absolutely hating it, which isn't what I would say with a lot of the books that I've read in this video. Happy Valentine's Day!
Happy Valentine's Day.
Rob is wearing his purple hat, of course, for the support, and he got me purple flowers. So today I decided we should go to the bookstore. We're going to a movie for our Valentine's date, but on the way we're going to the bookstore because I want to shop as a purple reader, because there's this entire article how each individual color should shop, and I do feel like this is something that's going to be a bulk of the book that he publishes. I just have a feeling it's going to be about not so much 100 recommendations for each color, but more so where you should start, what you should look for on your own when you go shopping, like the things that you should keep an eye out for. Okay.
Really making sure your alarm's on.
Was that what that was?
Yeah.
Skip the new releases table. Find small presses shelved near poetry and essays. Watch for Coffee House, Grey Wolf, New Directions. I actually love Grey Wolf. That's one of my favorite publishers. They published If an Egyptian Cannot Speak English, and The Trees, and The Dream House, and Her Body and Other Parties. I don't know if our local indie has that specific area. I think everything would just kind of be in fiction. And then also don't miss international shelves. The boldest forms often arrive in translation first, which is so true. And then for Alchemist, it says, yes, science fiction fantasy is probably your home base, but walk the literary fiction aisles too. A lot of speculative work gets shelved there to dodge stigma. Then he says the trap for purple readers is mistaking innovation for insight. Chasing the high of I've never seen this before can become its own rut. Covers with abstract art and minimalist designs often telegraph big ideas in literary clothing, which is so true, and is a lot of the things that I've already been reading in this video. So I think I'm looking for something today that I'm picking myself, but it is based on the purple vibes. Okay, I found a book. It's called I Gave You Eyes and You Look Towards Darkness, which is kind of intense. I'm pretty sure this just won an award. And now we're gonna walk to the candy store, and I'm only allowed to get purple candies, so we need something for our movie. Here, I wanted to show you the candy
It's a big ass grape.
that I got. I don't actually like grape flavored things, so I might give that to you, but I bought it for the vibes. And I don't think I found anything else purple, but I did find this cute pink flower. Hey, we're back from our date. Our movie was good. What's your rating for it?
I'd probably give it like a 7, 7.5.
Me too. We already discussed it. Anyway, I'm going to ignore my husband now on Valentine's Day, and I'm gonna read a book. What are you gonna do?
I'm playing Game Boy.
You got a Game Boy?
Yeah.
So this is from Grey Wolf Press. It did win the European Literature Award just a couple months ago. And what it says on the back is there's a woman who summons the devil to fulfill her wish of having a partner, but then she tries to double cross him. I think it sounds really interesting. This author, I don't know where she's from actually. It doesn't say in here, but it is translated by Mara Faye Letham. Now, this book wasn't recommended to me, so I'm going to make it a quick review because it's just something that I chose for myself. And even though I chose it for myself, I'm only giving it 3.5 stars. I really loved the beginning. This happens to me so often. Love the concept, love the opening, and then suddenly it changes. It's like when you listen to a song and it has a beat switch like halfway through. And sometimes like the first half of the song is your favorite, the second half. And I don't think I fully realized that we were following an entire kind of generation and a household full of people. And that's not always my favorite type of story, is multi-generational stuff. I really liked the idea of this woman selling her soul to the devil and what was gonna happen. She asked him for a whole man. And then we follow the man's journey and learn about his childhood and how he is missing a toe. And so she was like, demon man, I did not get a whole husband. And so now I'm going to, not follow through with this deal. And that has a ripple effect through everyone else in the household and in the family. Something really funny about this is the word purple was in the first chapter 3 different times. The devil himself, something about his purple, dark, inky something. I should have highlighted it. It was right at the beginning when she makes the deal with the devil and what she has to do. She has to like kill an animal and pee in the woods and stick a bean in an animal's butt or something. You might be thinking, Kayla, that's something that you would usually DNF and you don't really want to read about. Hear me out though, there was some interesting stuff happening, and there was even this whole scene, like a whole page that was about how they were cooking a meal. And it wasn't just they had this for dinner. It was like they took this vegetable and they cooked it this way and they did this and they charred this and they mixed this. It just felt like mundane things over explained, which I love. But then all of the graphic descriptions of animal deaths, a lot of like fart humor and like pissing everywhere. It just got to be a little bit much for my taste. There was a lot of animal harm and there was a lot of animal sex, talking about how all these different species have sex, and then also human beings, but mostly it was described the appendage as a toadstool. She was like, oh, his massive toadstool. What I liked about this is how fables were integrated into here. It would be like, there once was a man who did this and this and this and this, and then we see that kind of play out in reality, or the characters are, I don't know, reading to each other. Some of the characters in here have abilities, they have different connections, and it was well written. It was interesting, kept my attention. I think I only spent an hour and a half reading this, but it wasn't to my taste, like actually plot wise by the end, with everyone that we're following and all of the descriptions of all the things. Anyway, I'll talk to you tomorrow with my final day of being a purple reader. Can you believe I haven't run out of purple outfits yet?
Like a purple people eater.
Let's get quickly into my final book and my final thoughts. I read half of this last night and half of it this morning. It's a collection of short stories called Under the Eye of the Big Bird by Hiromi Kawakami, translated by Asa Yoneda. I realized yesterday while I was at Mosaic that there's so much Japanese speculative surrealist stuff that I often love, and that's not somewhere that I went in this video. And Stephen Rees recommends a lot of Japanese literature. When I saw this on the shelves, I was like, I recognize that. That's not the cover that I remember seeing, but it pinged something in my memory. This says purple readers will love the conceptual daring and form-bending speculative sweep. And I did enjoy it. I read half of it last night, half of it this morning, and I was rating each individual one, and then I kind of stopped doing that because this is interconnected short stories, but as it went on, they clicked a little bit more and it made me realize more what it was actually doing. So I was rating things like 3s and 4s in the first half. Once we actually got the full concept and everything started to be explained, I'm giving this a 4. I was gonna give it a 3, but I really appreciated the last 3 and how they tied everything together and how this was structured. I just did a video recently covering my favorite tropes and my favorite things, and a couple of those exist in here. One of them is a shared consciousness and one of them is clones. And in the first story, I was getting a sense that it was kind of cloney, but I didn't quite grasp what was happening, and then it got explained throughout here. We're in this future or apocalypse or other world where there are like watchers and there are mothers and there are breeders. Like you can have sex traditionally and make babies, but you can also replicate yourself depending on like where you're from. And there have been all of these advancements and all of these gene things happening throughout the centuries that this has been going on. And so some people and their version of replicating have become more like plants, and some are more traditionally people, and some are people but their facial features are a little bit different. And then there's this shared consciousness idea where you can scan someone else's mind, but not everybody has that ability. And in fact, there are so many people in here who just seem like normal people, and they're just normal stories, just going about life, talking about their childhood that they don't really remember, and then once they became who they were, once they were created, I guess, and their relationship with their mothers. Then we got a story about a girl like with a specific ability, and the book kind of shifted from there, and I started to understand a lot more of what was happening. And what I love about a lot of surrealist stories or apocalypse, futuristic, different realms, whatever, is they still have this core idea that like humanity will be humanity no matter what. Like in the strangest of circumstances, we will still group together and form a community. We will still look to a higher being as a religious figure. We will still crave connection. There will still be people who harm each other. Like that's something that almost always exists in books like this that I love. There was one that was really interesting. It was called Testimony, and it was just like an interview, a one-sided interview answering a whole bunch of questions. And the structure of this I don't think will work for everyone, even if you love short story collections. I can't think of very many interconnected ones that I've read, but the closest thing is How High We Go in the Dark, which is one of my favorites of all time. So I guess I would recommend this for fans of this, even though it's quite different. This feels more bleak, but this is bleak in its own way. Also, one of the stories featured a baby named Lala. So of course I had to love it. That's the end of my week. That's my quick review at the end, just because I don't usually read a lot on Sundays. I'm usually putting up a video and editing a lot, and that's what I'm gonna go do now. I also have a watch party for Drop Dead Gorgeous with my channel members in just a couple minutes. So all in all, I read 8 books in this week and for this vlog, and I had a range of 2 to 5 stars. I feel like this is a pretty typical reading experience for me in these vlogs. So reading like a purple reader didn't necessarily mean that I loved everything more than I normally would. I'm really glad I got to read this with you, and I'm really glad that I found something that I never would have picked up on my own. And then I got introduced to a lot of other really interesting things that I might not have otherwise. I love the concept of Read Your Color. I will pick up the book when it comes out. I think the concept of the website is fantastic. I'm glad that he put it together for something for all of us to come together and figure out. I wish in the future for there to be things like highlighting certain authors. Like if I could imagine this website and what it could be and what I would love it to be is like guest spots from authors, like figuring out a color of different authors who want to participate, and then they recommend something for each color. Maybe recommendations for YouTube channels or Instagrammers or TikTokers who are a certain color and what they would recommend. Definitely an expansion into different genres, or even allowing other people to take the trademark and create their own content around it with their own recommendations, because I think there's only so much one man can do. But that's it for me today. Let me know what your color is, and if you look through all of the recommendations, are there things on there that you love? Are there things that intrigue you? I would love to know any of your thoughts down below, and I'll see you in my next vlog. This one was quite cerebral, so in my next vlog we're definitely turning off the brain and reading some romantasy. Bye!